Another season of Ultraman has taken off into the distance, so let's talk about Omega. Hello everyone, it's thomasjujube, and make sure you let me know your thoughts on Ultraman Omega down in the comment section. And if you haven't seen Omega, if you are interested in the show, it is a good opening season for Ultraman. In my opinion, you don't need any previous knowledge like most Ultraman seasons, but most people don't know that, so I have to say that each time. I will link episode 1 in the description. It's fully available on YouTube with multi-language subtitles. So I did review episode 1, so you can check out my thoughts on the first episode, but in hindsight, I think Omega had a really strong start. Biggest part of it was that I thought Sorado was a very cool, older, experienced protagonist because he's like the fish out of water archetype because he's an alien Ultraman that fell to Earth, but with the amnesia thing, he also still has, like, experience. Like, he already knows how to be Ultraman. Well, technically not Ultraman. He knows how to be a fighter, I guess, and his powers and stuff like that. And the kaiju, but that feeds into the amnesia as well, where, like, we don't know how he knows about the kaiju. So there's a mystery going on as well. It's all very cool. But I also love how Kosei has the kaiju partners, the Meteo kaiju. I forget they're called that, because I don't know if they use that name in the show, but that is what they're called. And I think it incorporates him into the show in a really cool way, because I feel like we haven't had the partner character of an Ultraman, like, that's not just a host, like a human partner, does not really get to do a lot of action stuff. Not saying they have to, but it's really cool that Kosei's not fighting, but he's summoning the kaiju, he's giving dialogue and stuff to combine and stuff like that, and I think that's really cool. I think that's really fun. And on the flip side, it also gives us, it lets Tsuburaya have their kaiju obsession, because if you didn't know, I am a little recently it seems like new generation Ultraman has become much more obsessed with making new kaiju for Ultraman to fight versus giving Ultraman new forms, and I prefer when an Ultraman has new forms because I'm here to watch Ultraman, not kaiju. I understand that the kaiju are a big part of Ultraman. I prefer to have a bit of a balance, and I think Omega strikes a good balance because he has his own kaiju partner, so they get to make their own new kaiju, and they give Omega new forms. I would have liked if the turtle was in the show, so we have like 4 forms, because we haven't really had that many forms in Ultraman in a minute, but we're getting the turtle at all, so I think that's fine. And I think they did have a good balance, actually, of it in this season. While I'm talking about the suits, I might as well talk about the suits. I really have come to love the main Omega suit. I think he looks fantastic. I am 100%, I will admit I am biased because he's red. He's got the red face. But he looks really cool. I really like the look. And the blue eyes and, like, the cool shape of the color timer, like, that all plays into it as well. He's a very... Of course, a classic, you can tell he's an Ultraman, but he looks really cool. And then I love that he combines with his own little kaiju friends. I like, Reginus and Trigon. I think they're cool little, two cool little guys. I like they're opposite in the blue and yellow. The forms are fine. I like how, because the Sluggers are part of this season, just for whatever reason, I think it's cool. The Slugger changes into forms. I think that's neat. But my favorite is the Valganus suit. The monster kaiju looks so awesome. Like, it's so beautifully detailed. Like, I'm like, is this thing only appears for like 3 minutes of screen time as an actual suit, and it looks so amazing. And then the actual combined suit with Omega is just more red and fire and gold, and it looks so cool. So that's not only my favorite suit in this season, possibly one of my favorite suits in Ultraman. It looks really incredible. Love the Meteo kaiju. I don't know why I keep saying it wrong. And I love that Kosei is the facilitator of them. And then we have the world that these two characters and our other characters are participating in, where it is a normal world that has kaiju introduced into it. So we're seeing the beginning of this world's response to kaiju, which again makes Sorado's amnesia, knowledge of the kaiju more interesting, because it's not just, oh, he knows this kaiju that's randomly appeared. Like, it's like, no one knows what this thing is except Sorado almost every time. I think that's a really cool, like, everything just feeds into each other so well. Ayumu is, the biologist character, so she's researching the kaiju, and she's a cool, like, in for our other two friends to kind of explore parts they shouldn't be, since they're just two guys who happen to have the powers. And she's a government researcher, so, she's, like, knowledgeable, able to see these things. Also, since I didn't mention the turtle, I think, she has a turtle necklace, right? And I think there's some turtle imagery in a couple episodes that she's in, which I think is meant to imply that she's like the turtle of of the team. If you didn't know, I think the three monster kaiju that Omega uses for swarms are based on like some kind of myth or something like that. And the fourth one of those is a turtle. So people were like, "Where's the turtle Meteo kaiju?" Which they're doing in New Generation Omega Stars, so I think that's cool. I didn't even mention that form. That form's alright. It's actually probably my least favorite, but I appreciate that it exists. But I think in the context of the show, Ayumu's meant to be like not the fourth kaiju, but like that fourth kind of rock. Actually, she's green, right? In the opening sequence, so like I'm pretty sure, and the kaiju's green, so I don't know. I think it definitely fits because she's definitely like their rock, not their rock, their turtle. A turtle's like heavy, so that's kind of why I'm thinking of it as like a rock. Like she's that kind of anchor for those two characters. Now I say all this high praise, but I did stop watching the show, for a couple of reasons. None of it is like the show was bad. I don't think it was bad, especially early on. It's just, on one hand, I actually kept watching further than I stopped doing shorts. I stopped doing shorts like early, and then I kept watching for a little bit. So I stopped doing shorts just because no one watches my Ultraman shorts. And, sometimes, at some point I have to keep, I have to look at some numbers when it comes to videos I make. So if no one's watching these shorts, it's taking me a bit to make, not a bit, but like if I have to do this thing every week that no one's watching, it's possibly hurting my channel. I should just cut it. So I cut it, but I kept watching, and then I stopped watching because we got to the point where they did the not non-canon, but like the not part of the episode count recap, and I just went, I don't want to watch, or I stopped watching a week, and then I stopped watching entirely. So, I do think part of it is also because up to that point, Omega felt still a lot like a modern Ultraman season. Even though we had these unique elements with the world, and Kosei and Sorado and their interactions with Ayumu, it still felt like we were going through the motions of like a normal Ultraman season. And like, even as I continued watching recently for this video, it still kind of felt like we were going through the motions, like introduce an overarching enemy / plotline in episode 1 that's not referenced or anything until like the final form or some other plot relevant form debuts. Everything else is a fun but episodic story in between. Like, it's just doing Ultraman things. And obviously, for a franchise that's been going for 55 years, obviously that's working for them. I'm not going to tell them to stop. I'm not going to act like I'm smarter than these writers. But for me as a viewer who's watched at least for the last 3 years straight, I was just kind of like, I've seen this, so I'll come back later. I think maybe if Ayumu was introduced to who Sorado is as Omega early on, maybe that would have been different. These three friends that have their Ultraman friend trying to solve the kaiju mysteries. I don't know. I don't want to act like... I don't want to spend too much time on that because... basically, because in the second half, they started to feel less like the standard Ultraman falling into the tropes that we kind of are used to at this point, and they started doing their own unique things. For example, in the first half, we started slowly teasing and introducing like anti-kaiju standard Ultraman world stuff, like the military attacking the kaiju, anti-kaiju weaponry, kaiju researchers like the professor. That stuff you're used to, like if you pop in Ultraman Trigger or Decker or Blazar or Arc. All of those worlds already know about kaiju, and have those kinds of things. This world doesn't, and we start to see the formation of all of that as the show goes on, to the point where the second half of the show features our main characters in an actual Ultraman attack team now. So they went from being, Sarado went from being a homeless guy to having a job, which is an interesting development for a character to have, but it's true and it works. And it's just kind of inspiring in a way to see not just Sarado, but to see, like, especially Ayumu and Kosei, go from normal people in this world trying to make a difference in the light of kaiju appearing to actually being able to make a difference because they're part of a team that's job is to make a difference with the kaiju attacks. So I think that's really cool. Professor Uta being introduced into this, obviously, as an attack team leader, is a really cool dynamic. Just because I think it's interesting that we drop in this attack team leader character when, again, usually they're pre-established in the beginning of a show. And then all three, well, Kosei already knew, so the two of them actually learn that Sarado is Ultraman. So, like, we get... I've been asking and hoping for years that we get another season where the team finds out their main character is Ultraman before the show ends. I know usually they'll do it at the end of the show, and that's fine. You get your big dramatic moment. But I just wanted them to try doing it. And I know older seasons have done it earlier on. I'm not acting like this has never happened. I'm just saying in the shows I've watched in recent years, I've wanted them to try it again. They finally tried it again, and I think it was great because, you know, just on a subtle level, like, you don't need to have Sarado go, oh, I have to go to the bathroom, and then Ultraman comes out of the bathroom. Especially since, like, the leader of the attack team knows she can, like, create plans knowing that Ultraman will appear because her subordinate is Ultraman. And she even says she hired him because she knew he's Ultraman and just needed him around. Like, he's useful. Maybe he should stick with us. I think that's really cool. The two girls, I think, they're definitely more like attack team members than the boys. That's fine, I guess. They're the ones with powers. That's how this usually goes. Either way, all four of them, I really like all four of them. Uta, I think, is very funny and silly. I like her. I like how, as an American, any Japanese Toku character that just randomly says English will always be funny. So she appeals to the lowest common denominator, me. And I think she's funny. And then Ayumu, as I previously mentioned, I like that she starts off just as, like, I think she's just a creature researcher, right? And then with the advent of kaiju, she slowly grows into becoming a kaiju researcher, and then, like, we see that growth. It's not just like, oh, we're doing that. Like, I love the episode where she's struggling to figure out how to defeat the Chimera, to the point where now she's a full attack team member. At the end, she's leading the boys when Uta's gone, and she's cute. So I like that the funny faces she makes and stuff like that. So it felt like not wholly different, but a different kind of Ultraman show. It still felt like Ultraman, but it was new. It was different for me. And that's especially true in the finale, the last few episodes. The Space Gazer plotline is so incredibly unique, in my opinion. Maybe another Ultraman season has done it, but I'm not going to act like they have because I have no idea. So a lot of Ultraman seasons that I've seen, and the movie, I think, pose the question about whether or not an Ultraman is necessary for the humans to fight kaiju. Like, sometimes they ask if he's really here to help us, is he a bad guy? But also, like, you know, if Ultraman stops, if he dies, if he leaves, what do the humans do? How do the humans solve their kaiju problems? And they say in Omega, so coming back to this show's commentary on that specifically, I think Uta and a few other people will say that Earthlings should be able to deal with Earth's problems. Obviously, they're not going to say no to Omega to helping them out because it's a big monster, but it makes sense that the human race would want their own way to fight kaiju, since the kaiju seem to be sticking around, so they need to figure out how to deal with that on their world. So, the conflict in the finale, as Sarado regains his memory, learns he's part of this race that's supposed to only observe, not interfere, it becomes this conflict about whether or not he feeds in to that human, not like that the thought that humans should solve their own problems or takes action as this higher being and helps solve their problems. So they're not learning or doing anything, but he's helping them. He's still helping them, right? Like, it's not like they're not going to say no, but it's this interesting dilemma. I can see both sides. You know, I understand, even like as a character in the world, I understand it's like, well, I don't like kaiju killing me. So I like when the big monster the big guy shows up and saves us, but it would be nice if we could do it ourselves in case the big robot stopped showing up. And then for Serato, since they gave him the title of Ultraman, given to him halfway through the season, so when we kind of got more attack team stuff, so I think that's fun. Since he was given the title of Ultraman, like, he questions, does he continue to be Ultraman, or does he just return to being Omega and leave? There's that one fight, and he's like almost an anti-hero. He shows up, like, he's just watching a kaiju destroy. The one time he transforms is to just like, it's like, feel out how powerful this thing is, and once he does, he's like, all right, cool, you guys have fun with that. Like, he's not an Ultraman in terms of character at that point. Like, he's almost not a bad guy. He's not fighting humans, but he's not a good guy either. And I think that's incredibly interesting. It's such a satisfying conclusion to the Amnesia plotline too. Like, it's not like the fact it does change his character. It's not remembering things that he's already demonstrated or character qualities he's already shown throughout the show. So the way he does come back around to fight for the humans, of course, is obvious. Of course, it would come from Kosei and the girls, his connection to the humans that he's made throughout the show, but like, that's what the show's about. That's why Kosei's the one who summons the Medio Kaiju. That's why the girls are the leaders of the attack team that he's helping out. It's so, when he does come back to save all of them, you're like, of course, like, you know, it's satisfying. That's what the show's about. This is what the climax of this arc is supposed to be. So that alone would be really cool. I'd be really happy with that as a finale. But then, like, he explodes with Kosei, and I'm sitting there like, this is like how a lot of seasons start. The Ultraman dies fighting the kaiju, and the human is caught in the blast. And the two of them go into the other world, and I'm like, so normally, in another season, Kosei would still be a suit and be like, you died, let's merge bodies and become Ultraman. So then they do that. They merge bodies and become the same Omega suit we've gotten, but Kosei uses the riser and transforms. And I almost wish they didn't show Serato for that. Like, they just had Kosei doing it, because I think that would really feed into the thing they're trying to do. But also the thing they're trying to do is show that connection between the two of them. So show both of them rising. I guess that's fine. So now, at the end of the show, we're at this point where the human has become the host of the Ultraman and presumably will defend the Earth. But again, it's the end. This is the finale of the season. So, like, our main character, they show Serato is now the Ultraman that appears in mirrors or whatever to talk to Kosei. So Kosei's become the new character. He's our Ultraman now. And that's so cool. I love it. It's not new to have a human bond and an Ultraman talk to them, right? Like, that's the formula. But it's the formula at the end of the season. The normal Ultraman formula is the ending. So this is the first time that I've seen not only the finale of an Ultraman season, but like a Toku in general, where I'm really satisfied, but I also really need a whole other season of this show. Like, I want to see Kosei transform into Omega on the ground screaming Omega, right? Because he's not Omega. He would scream the name. So unfortunately, Ultraman Omega does leave me on a disappointing note, but that's not the show's fault. Tsuburaya, you will hopefully one day pay for your sins in the form of an Ultraman Omega spin-off show that follows the adventures of Kosei and Ayumu with their friend Serato, or I'll take that movie that you've decided to not make for Omega for whatever reason. I don't know why. The one time I would have watched post-series movie, they decided to not make it, but that's neither here nor there. I don't know if I enjoyed the show more because I binged through it. I do feel like I would have loved this ending part anyways, but it's actually one of my new favorites. So, make sure you let me know, again, what you thought of Ultraman Omega down in the comment section. Subscribe for more Ultraman content when the new show starts later this year, and I hope to see you next time.